Hey, I'm Zach. And I'm Jesse. We're going to be reviewing the Ride1Up Cafe Cruiser next on Now Let's Review.
All right, Jesse, so if you had to sum up this bike in 3 words, what would it be? Quick!
Okay, quick. Comfortable.
Okay.
Love the rider position. Fast. It
Fast.
can go pretty quick. Cheap. It's a relatively inexpensive e-bike.
I think the only word I'd either add or take away from yours would be stylish. I mean, I think they've done a really good job. So when you walk up to this bike, it's a big bike. It feels bigger than a lot of other bikes. So I just want you to be kind of aware of that. Look at us, when we're in relation to it. It's a very comfortable bike. So before we get going on all the stats and all that kind of stuff, it's a cafe cruiser. Having this lower kind of puts it into the cruiser class when you add these big tires. This is the first time that we've had a bike with these size tires. These are 26 by 3s. We usually do 4s for fat tire, or we do like 2s. These are 3s, and it's a quite interesting size.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't give the same kind of off-road look. And a lot of that has to do with the actual tire pattern, but I don't know, it's nice and cushy, nice and big, gives you a nice, happy grip on the road.
You know, I want to say, if you want a bike that doesn't scare other riders, but still gives you the kind of most of the benefits of fat tire, this might be the one. Because the only downside of a fat tire is immediately people think like, okay, wait, that's not a bike. So if you kind of want to blend in more, I feel like this does the trick, because 3 inches, yes, they're bigger, but they're not so big that they immediately jump to mind as being the defining factor of the bike.
Yeah, this doesn't look like a motorcycle. It doesn't sound like a motorcycle, again, because of the tires. It really, it accentuates the bike look. And I think another thing is the rider position. You're not hunched over the handlebars. You're not resting on your wrists or anything like that. You are very much upright, vertical, sitting on your butt on this nice, big, comfortable seat with those swept back handlebars. Basically just nice, you're just kind of, just hold
You're doing the European thing. So let's jump into it now. So this is a step over frame, kind of in between a regular high frame and a complete step through frame. So if that's what you're looking for, this could be it.
Now, Ride1Up does sell a step through frame where this part basically comes down a little bit further. We just have the one that's higher.
So this is the Cafe Cruiser XR, and like Jesse mentioned, there are other versions of it, so check those out. Also, we've got this in the large size. We're gonna put up on screen right now all the dimensions so that you can decide which one is the right size for you.
And we also got it in the indigo matte color.
Yeah, there's 3 colors you can get it in. You can get it in the indigo matte, the carbon matte, and the latte gloss.
Which looks like white to me.
Yeah, it looks like an off-white, doesn't really look like a latte.
A really milky latte. But let's talk about the looks of this bike. I think that they did a lot with a little here.
Yeah, there's one little detail right here I just want to point out I've never seen on a bike before, where they put this kind of material finish here.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
It's very cool. A lot of I like the paint, all these different lines.
Yeah,
and
look
stuff.
how the black line carries through, and that also has a texture to it. It feels nice, and the black fades into blue here. Really
right
cool.
here, yeah. I think that overall they did a lot with a little, and what I mean by that is that the price is relatively low.
$12.95. Now that's marked down, and again, this is as of filming this, it might be different, but $15.95 marked down to $12.95. That's probably about the price you're gonna find it at. That includes the fenders. These are aluminum front and rear fenders. And what I like about this, look at this, they're attached down here to the frame. So it makes the rear fender really secure.
And it means that you're not gonna get covered with dust and water. The rack is also included.
Yeah, and it's a heavy duty rack. A lot of racks just carry like 25 kilograms. This one holds 150 pounds. So
nice.
That's why you can add on this accessory here, which is a rear seat, and so you can carry a passenger.
It has a 750 watt Bafang motor, and it's 750 watts sustained. It has a peak, I got it around 900 watts. I think it could probably peak up to 1,000 watts. And most of my riding, when I was really pushing it, was in the 800 watt region. So a very powerful motor. Although I did notice that it was very high range. Basically, this bike can get up to 28 miles an hour on pedal assist. You can really feel, it's kind of like starting a car off in a high gear. You just don't have hardly any starting power. That's what this kind of feels like.
I felt that too. Going up hills, it's gonna not be as fast going up the hills, but it will get you up. And because that gearing, this is a thinner motor, but bigger. It's a little bit louder. So if you're looking for a completely silent bike, this may not be for you, but it didn't get very loud. It's just that it was always kind of humming along.
The brakes, hydraulic brakes by Zoom. These are 180 millimeter rotors. I love hydraulic brakes. They give you such confidence in stopping power. And again, with the big tires and kind of the nicely spaced frame, it had excellent stopping power.
We're gonna put the weight here on screen because it's different for all the different size bikes. It's a little bit a heavy bike, and so yeah, you're gonna need the good brakes.
I want to talk about this section right here of the frame. They hid all the welds, or
nice.
at the very least, it was cast. And so this section doesn't have anything, and it looks really nice.
Yeah.
Then you come down to basically every other connection point, and you can see the welds. It's not the end of the world.
You ever do that thing where you don't notice a car model on the road until you say buy one and then you notice them? Same thing with welds. You probably don't notice them, but as soon as we point them out to you, haha, we ruined it for you.
Yes.
Now you're gonna notice them. I just think manufacturers should take the extra few bucks to clean these up, because then it makes the bike really pop. And when you don't do that, my eye immediately goes to all the welds.
I have to push back and disagree here. I think that it's a great way to reduce the price of the bike. If you had to have a guy, sit there for probably, I don't know, an hour or two for every single bike with a grinder, and you have to go through those pads, it's going to increase the cost of the bike. I love getting this bike at $12.95.
No, that's a really good point.
I want to talk about the front suspension. I was pleasantly surprised by it. Is this like a fancy brand that we normally don't get to see?
It's Mozo hydraulic with 80 millimeter throw. It felt really nice.
Yeah, I noticed that it actually would minutely move. And part of that is because I was staring straight down the barrel of it from my seating position. It felt very comfortable. You don't have any rear suspension, so this is not any kind of off-road vehicle.
Again, it's a cruiser. It's really for riding on boardwalks and on bike paths. It's not for riding off-road that much.
But with that being said, all the bumps that I hit, it handled really well.
So let's talk about the fact that this is $12.95, so you're getting cadence sensing, not torque sensing, and explain what that is, and the fact that it does have customizable speeds.
So in the e-biking world, there's essentially two flavors. There's cadence sensing and there's torque sensing. Cadence sensing is cheaper. And so the way that works is that somewhere in the spinning part of your pedal assembly is a magnet. And then you also, on the part of the bike, is something that can detect magnetic fields. And so as you pedal, it'll be able to say, oh, the pedal is going around.
Basically an on-off switch.
Here's what it does. It just turns on the motor or it shuts off the motor, depending on whether you're pedaling or whether you're not. And cadence sensing is cheap because it's that simple to implement, whereas a torque sensor determines how much actual pedal force you're putting into the bike, and then it's going to multiply that number and send that to the motor, where you feel like suddenly you're Superman.
So here's the kind of quick cheat code for this. As you're riding along, there's 5 levels of pedal assist on this bike, also 0 if you want to just ride it as a regular bike. If you put it into 1, the bike's going to want to go, let's say, 7 miles an hour. And you can't go a little less or a little more. That's the problem. And then when you put into pedal assist 2, you're gonna go 10 miles an hour. If those speeds work out for you, like if you're alone, that's probably fine. But if you're riding with a friend and they're going 12 and you're going 10, it makes it really hard. Whereas with a torque assist, you just push a little harder and you're right up to 12.
Now, with that being said, this does have customizable pedal assist settings. What that allows you to do is, it's very complicated. You're going to have to consult the manual because it basically has digital watch controls. It's gonna say like, hold the plus and minus buttons for 3 seconds, and then, a 3-digit code is gonna pop up and it's like, UAX. And it's like, well, I don't know what the heck that means. So you're gonna have to consult the manual, but you can actually change it to 0 to 9 levels of pedal assist and then determine what each level of pedal assist is going to do. It's not simple to set up, but this will be your bike and you can do that.
So I recommend once you get the bike, first of all, there's 30-day returns, but only up to 20 miles. So what I think you should do is unbox the bike, keep the packing material, go for a short 2-3 mile bike ride. See if you like it. If you hate it, pack it right back up, send it back to the company. If you like it, go for a couple more rides before you hit that 20-mile mark and make sure that you like it, because that's your only chance. After 20 miles, you can't return it. Okay, so make sure it's not just the 30 days, it's also the 20 miles. Once you know you like it, I would go for some rides and take real note of the pedal speeds you like, the things that you like and don't like, then go home and program it. Go for a couple more rides until you get it just the way you want it. I know that's gonna take some time, but then this bike is gonna really turn into your bike.
Now, there's one other thing that I wanna say about the cadence sensing for this bike. A lot of times the cadence sensor is a killer for a lot of e-bikes, and the reason for that is ghost pedaling. And ghost pedaling is where you are pedaling the bike, so the cadence sensor kicks in, right? And then you're pedaling, you get up to some speed where the top gear on your bike is still not fast enough. Your feet are flying around and the bike accelerates beyond that, and all of a sudden you may as well not be pedaling, or you're basically just pretending to pedal and all you're hearing is that, because in relation to what the wheels are doing, the pedals are doing nothing. The really nice part about this bike is that they geared the actual pedals so that even at 28 miles an hour, you will still be putting power into the bike, and that's great.
I was so shocked when we did our testing that I got up to 25 miles an hour. This says top speed of 28. I got up to 25 right away, no problem. Normally I'm having to go really hard to get it past 20. So this is a nice bike if you want to go riding with your friends who actually ride fast. Because if you're on a non-e-bike, a regular bike, you have to go kind of 20, 22 miles an hour all the time in order to maintain your momentum when you're going up hills and stuff like that. And a lot of our e-bikes are only able to go like 20 before they give out. So this is really, you're right, this is a really nice feature that you can go those extra 5 or 8 miles an hour, which makes a difference when you're on roads with cars, because now you're keeping up with traffic and you're getting through intersections fast. Okay, I bet you're asking about range right now. Of course, it varies with your style, but the manufacturer claims 30 to 50 miles of range. I think that that's realistic if you're doing a lot of the pedaling at the lower speeds. I think that if you're just doing a lot of thumb throttle, you're not going to get anywhere close to 30. This has Samsung cells. It's a 48 volt pack with 39 2170 cells, if you're into that kind of info, 720 watt hours. So a pretty medium sized battery that they put in here pretty nicely. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that it's an e-bike, but it will fool some people.
Yeah, I mean, it comes out, it's big and fairly bulky, but overall, I really appreciate having a large battery for e-bikes. It just gives you that extra peace of mind that you're probably gonna make it. With that being said, I think that the motor is a little bit inefficient. I was noticing, high 800s in terms of wattage, like a lot.
Right.
Which means that you're going to get a little bit less than an hour if that's how you're pushing the bike the entire time. I don't think that you're necessarily going to be doing that, but that would be the worst case.
What's really cool, you mentioned wattage. The reason he knows the wattage is because on the controller, and let's talk about the controller, you get to see all the normal stuff like the speed and the mileage. You get to see whether your headlight's on. You get to change your pedal assist levels. You get to see the wattage, which is really cool.
Yeah, and so that can help kind of inform what you're doing there. The one downside with this particular controller is that it doesn't display you the voltage of the battery pack. The voltage of the battery pack will go down as you ride it. So once it's dead, it reaches about 43 volts, but at full charge, it's at 51 volts. You can adjust what the bars tell you, but it's just so not granular that you're gonna be riding and then all of a sudden it's gonna go boop and you're gonna go, oh no.
What do you mean you can adjust what the bars tell you?
I was going through all the controller and you can actually adjust what voltage each.
Well, that's kind of cool.
It is nice.
But the thing I don't like is it's chunky. It's 5 bars. And so you're gonna be riding along and it's nice to know that you have 67% as opposed to I have 3 bars. I don't know why my brain works that way, but I just don't like, mainly because usually these battery indicators are kind of off, and so they'll be high for most of the ride and then drop suddenly for the end of your ride.
And a lot of that has to do with the voltage of the battery pack. Really intelligent controllers, the ones that are in like electric cars and stuff like that, they know how much energy is leaving the pack and how much energy should be able to be stored in the pack, and that's how it can give you such an accurate number. When you're relying on the pack voltage under load, that isn't exactly the best indicator. And so yeah, sometimes you'll be riding really, really hard and the battery level will go down, and then you'll like stop riding because you're worried, and the battery level will go back up and you go, oh, I guess it has more energy in it. It doesn't. It's just that the battery chemically was able to give more voltage when you stopped riding. It's so complicated, and I hate to have to bring that to you, but unfortunately that's what these chunky battery indicators do.
One of the things I like about the controller is it gives you that headlight indicator, and so normally I have to put my hand in front of the headlight to see if it's on, and here it tells me. Also, when you switch it into headlight mode, you get a backlight on the LCD screen. So even though it's not a fancy screen, it's easier to see at night.
Now, right next to the controller is the thumb throttle. Nothing to write home about. I like thumb throttles because you know that it's the throttle. It's not a twist throttle where it's like part of your handlebar. And the really nice part about it is that when you're sitting at an intersection and like the light is about to change, you don't have to worry about what gear you're in or if your pedals are in the right position. You just smash the thumb throttle and through the intersection you go at about the same speed that many cars can accelerate. This motor in particular, as I said, doesn't have the best low-end torque, so you're not going to come flying off the line, but it'll carry you right through an intersection up to 20 miles an hour, which I think is fantastic.
I think older riders are actually going to like that it's not that torquey, because when you're older, you don't like it to react too fast for you.
True. And the other nice thing about the thumb throttle is it allows you to keep your feet dragging on the ground as you take off. Instead of having to put all your weight up onto some pedals and some really complicated thing and then have to weave your bike to keep balanced.
That's a good point.
You just kind of, you just start accelerating, and if you need to, you have your feet literally dragging on the ground.
I like that. How about these leather grips?
So the leather grips, I've seen these before on different e-bikes.
I mean, they're faux leather, they're not real.
Yeah,
but...
they're fine, except that they can twist if you twist them.
Oh, can you tighten those up?
I don't think that you can. I think that this is what you get. So basically during your ride, if you're like me and you're putting a lot of force down with your palms, then you're going to basically twist them. And so you're gonna have to twist them back. It's a little annoying. You can replace these. There are so many different kinds of handlebar covers that you can get if these don't work out for you. I think that for the price of this bike, these are great. I mean, these are better than all the handlebars you ever had as a kid. They're not rubber, they're not gonna leave.
I had ones with streamers, so don't say that, it's not true. Now you may be asking, we get this a lot in the comments, are these bikes waterproof? Yes and no. This particular bike is IP65, and what that means is it can withstand things like puddles and light rain, but it cannot really withstand being out in the rain all the time. So it's not meant to be kept outside your house, it really should be kept inside your garage or inside your house. So don't, it's fine when you're going for a quick bike ride and you leave it outside a store and it gets rained on, that's not going to destroy it. But don't think that you can leave it outside all the time.
Well, and especially with the battery. I mean,
and the controller, right.
Sure. I mean, as long as these things are allowed to dry out before you reintroduce the power, everything should be fine. Don't leave it at the bottom of a lake for a week and then expect that it's gonna work.
We talked about the fact that you can get a passenger kit that goes on the back. That is $125. You can also get pannier bags for $60 from Ride1Up, and that's really nice because that means you can fit a lot of your groceries and stuff in there.
What I really liked is that they give you these 4 holes here, and it says Connect Plus, so I'm assuming that there's other stuff that you can get for it. But I mean, there's a lot that you could strap or bolt to this.
Yeah.
I'm thinking just a big old piece of plywood or, some kind of a milk crate box. So that way you could just throw things in the back of it and it becomes a lot more of a utilitarian device as opposed to just a bike.
Because this bike can hold a capacity of 350 pounds. So, you can add your weight plus whatever this is to make sure you're under that weight limit. Well, and I do want to mention that there's a rear light as well as the headlight. And so that's a really nice feature. You're going to be really well seen on the road because this is up nice and high. All right, so what are your final thoughts on this bike? I just want to say, I think for the price, and if this fits your riding style, and again, I've said this many times in the videos, make sure that this is the style bike that you want. But if that's the case, I think it's pretty well built. Is it the best built bike we've ever seen? No, but it is pretty well built, especially for $1,300.
The thing that I really like about this bike is that it doesn't really have any kind of Achilles heel. There's nothing about it that I'm like, oh, but this actually entirely ruins it. It has really nice components.
Well, and I didn't mention that it's got an Acera 8-speed shifter, and I think that's really important because you don't need 20 speeds, in my opinion. 8 speeds is great. The lower gears are great for getting up hills. The higher speeds are great when you're, up to speed, and so that's really wonderful. And I love this little feature. There's protection on both sides of the chain here, so the sprocket's not going to catch you and get hurt.
And in addition to that, they did such a great job with the gearing that it really does make up for the cadence sensing, in my opinion. I think that there are many cheap e-bikes out there where they just slapped on a gear set, slapped on a motor, slapped on a controller, and they didn't care that when you reach top speed of the bike, you couldn't pedal it anymore. This one, you can actually pedal comfortably at 28 miles an hour. You're actually putting in energy, which is going to extend your range by a lot. A lot of these cheaper e-bikes, you are ghost pedaling at top speed, which means that the motor has to do all the work, and that doesn't do you any good in terms of range. So I think that in terms of what you're getting, this is really nice. It's not the only bike in the world that has mastered having a cadence sensor and being relatively cheap. I just think that this is a great example and looking pretty fresh too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you're an older rider, this has the upright style that's nice on your back. You really don't want to do this while you're riding. It's just after doing that for half an hour or an hour, it really hurts. So if you're looking for something comfortable, the saddle is awesome. There's even actually a little bit of suspension in the saddle as well. I think you really should consider this bike because of its price and all of its cool features.
Last favorite point.
Okay.
water bottle holder.
Yeah, it's nice to have.
A lot of e-bikes don't have water bottle holders, and it's because it's like, well, I don't need one. I have this big battery. But, you know, sometimes you're going to want to drink.
My last thing is there's tons of real estate on the
my
handlebars,
gosh.
and it's all the same size. So it's really nice to put your phone on there, a GPS, whatever you want, right there on your handlebars.
Yeah, a cup holder.
You could.
I mean, I'm just saying. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Now Let's Review. I hope that it's helpful. Please comment down below if there's any e-bikes that you're interested in, so that way we can reach out to those companies and see if we can review them for you. We'll see you next time. Now Let's Review.